Hello and welcome to the Curiosity and Consciousness podcast. The intention of this podcast is to open your mind, get curious about yourself and connect to the power you hold within. I am your host, Karen Maloney, an inside-out coach, helping you to believe in yourself and manifest your desires. Check out the podcast, available on all platforms, and go to my website, www.karenmaloney.com for all info. Hello everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me for another episode and Happy New Year again. We're already well into the month and I can't believe that it's already the 13th of January. But I have another great guest for you today. But before we jump in, just a reminder of some of the incredible offers that I'm doing for January. Feel free to send me an email at any stage, support@karenmaloney.com, and I can send you all info. But there are 2 silent counselling sessions for the price of 1. So it's a special introductory offer. You can try 2 for 1 and experience the benefits yourself of this powerful healing modality. And I also have a couple of spots left for the special one-to-one coaching that I'm doing, a 6-week one-to-one coaching, again at a special price. So feel free to pop me an email, support@karenmaloney.com, or go to my website, www.karenmaloney.com, and click the contact, send me an email or send me a WhatsApp, and I will be happy to answer any questions or share the information with you. So feel free to reach out. There are loads of dogs barking around me at the moment, but today's guest is joining us and talking and sharing with us on a very, very important topic that many people often struggle with as well. So Devin Burke is an international TEDx speaker, the best-selling author of The Sleep Advantage, the founder of Sleep Science Academy, and one of the top health and sleep coaches in the world. His books, keynotes, programs, and videos have inspired thousands of people to improve their sleep, energy, and life. He helps high achievers and exhausted insomniacs get and stay asleep so they can wake up with more peace, power and presence. He was named one of the top 25 health coaches in America and has studied innovative holistic coaching methods from some of the world's top health and human performance experts for over a decade. As a speaker and coach, he has inspired thousands of people to open their eyes to what is possible through creating new sleep, health and performance habits and routines. And again, I think this is a great conversation to start the year with and to bring into our awareness again. And I love Devin's take on it. You know, he doesn't talk about sleep from a place of, oh, we're doing it wrong and it's a problem that you may have for your entire life if you struggle with sleep. He expands the conversation as well to how sleep can be a reflection of how there is disharmony in your day and how you can bring back in some balance and more harmony and pauses or mindfulness throughout the day. So when you get to bed, you're not bringing the day with you as well. You've had moments to unburden yourself throughout the day. And he also talks about one of the biggest issues with why people are struggling to sleep, and as well he looks at some of the more practical steps as well. So lots in this conversation. I'm sure you'll really enjoy it, and you can find out more on Devin's work either on his website devinburke.com, that's DEVINBURKE, devinburke.com, or sleepscienceacademy.com. Enjoy. Hello everybody, welcome and thanks for joining for another episode. This week I have Devin Burke joining me. So first of all, you're very welcome, Devin, and thanks for joining today.
Glad to be here. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a really interesting conversation, and certainly on a topic that I know a lot of people often struggle with or find difficulty with, wish they had a better energy with, or whatever the word is. So you are a sleep coach and a health coach. Why don't you describe or share some background, first of all, in what led you to sleep being of particular interest to you?
Yeah, so I, like a lot of people, I didn't realize that sleep was so important. I actually took it for granted. And
Mm,
I studied a lot of different, let's call it mind body technologies, from
mm,
nutrition to exercise physiology to a lot of mindset psychologies. And it wasn't actually until someone that I was working with had a challenge sleeping that I got interested in sleep. And this particular person was really struggling, high performing entrepreneur. And I looked into the science of sleep. I looked into what was available for people that don't sleep well.
mm,
And literally, I just could not believe how I had just missed this such essential foundational piece to living a healthy, vibrant life. And so anyway, the more I learned about it, the more I wanted to learn about it. And the more I looked into what was available to help people that have these sleep issues, the more fascinated I got with really coming up with a solution or finding solutions for people that really struggle to get and stay asleep.
mm. And just when you mentioned there, you're really fascinated. What was the most fascinating thing for you that you discovered about sleep?
I would have to say that it's not a waste of time. I used to believe that nothing happened when you sleep. Like I
Mm,
think most people have this preconceived idea that sleep is, you just lay your head on the pillow and nothing happens. It's like this wasted time, and that it shouldn't be protected or prioritized. And then I learned that, wow, there's actually parts of the brain that are more active during the night than during the day, and it's essential for our immune systems. It's essential
mm,
for our decision, cognitive function. It's essential for our relationships. It's essential to longevity. It's connected to everything in our
mm.
life, and so that really, it's not a waste of time. It's actually the single most productive thing that you could do to heal your body.
Yeah, amazing. Then, as you're sharing, there's a phrase that popped into my mind as well. Is that idea of creation makes no mistakes, and if it exists, if it's something we're meant to do, there's obviously reasons for it, and we'll delve into that, I'm sure, in the conversation as well. First of all, touching on why people have such issues with sleep or disturbed sleep or not being able to sleep the night or whatever the case may be. Why do people have so many issues with sleep?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's a question that I reflect on a lot, and it really comes down to one word, which is stress.
Mm,
It's environmental stress that creates disconnection with nature, or how we were meant to live. So there's more mental, emotional, and physical stress than ever before because of technology, and people are just disconnected from the natural biorhythms. From we most people spend, I think it's, I've read a statistic, I think it's 96% of their life indoors. So it's just, we're just totally disconnected from where we have come from, and that has created a lot of dis-ease and disorder, one of being people not being able to sleep. So yeah, I always tell people your sleep is oftentimes a reflection of your life or your day. And if you're not sleeping well, it's really, there's a barrier, or there's a disconnection, or a disharmony that needs to be looked at. But to answer the question very simply, it's stress, both physical and mental stress, and environmental stress as well.
yes, that word stress, 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 and it's the root of so many different things because, as you mentioned, we live so far disconnected from our true nature and how we're meant to be and who we're meant to be and how we're meant to live. And well, that's really interesting as well. How you mentioned it's a person's sleep is like a reflection of what's going on in their day or a disharmony, and that's kind of like a lot of things, and we often just focus on the end piece, like just the
Mm.
sleep. How can I fix the sleep or my nighttime routine? But that's really interesting that it actually starts earlier in the day, or could be things happening throughout the day that's actually causing the disrupted sleep in the first place. So how do you help people to kind of open up their perspective and be aware of what's happening in their day in order to maybe improve their sleep in the evening?
Yeah, it's important for people to realize that a great night of sleep starts as soon as you wake up. So what you do throughout the entire day is going to dictate whether or not your body's going to do what it knows how to do, just like your heart beats and your lungs breathe. Sleep is a natural biological process that happens when we allow it to happen. And so everything you do throughout your day dictates is going to have an effect on your sleep. So what you do and what you don't do, all the little decisions, they add up. And Karen, most people bring their days into their nights.
Yeah.
And then they wonder why they can't sleep. And the most common question I get asked is, how do I shut my mind off? My mind just goes crazy as soon as I get into bed, and it just gets in the way from my body being able to fall into sleep or pulls me out of sleep. And it makes sense because all day, most of us are nexting. We're worrying about the next thing. We're going from back to back to meetings. We're running around with the kids, doing all the things, on our devices. There's so much more stimulation that our bodies, it's kind of batteries that just sort of get this static energy all day. And if we don't discharge some of that energy, the first time that we get a chance to actually kind of process what was going on in the day is usually when our head hits the pillow. That's usually for most people, unless they have some sort of, meditation or mindfulness practice or something like that intentionally slows them down. That's the first time that people kind of just stop. And it's not ideal, because when you stop and there's space created, that's when the mind starts to race. That's when you start to worry about, what you did or didn't do or need to do. And that's not ideal. That's not really going to be the best time to kind of think through your life and all the things that are going on while you're trying to go to sleep.
Definitely not. But I think a lot of people can relate that's, the very moment that they have a moment to think about everything or go through everything. And like you say, it's not ideal. So it comes back to that question again or as you mentioned, the stress. And then how can we manage stress or be mindful of stress throughout the day so we don't end up in that position at night and have everything racing, or that's the first pause in the day that everything can come up to be looked at?
There's so many ways. I mean, really, I think that you can't really manage what you're not measuring. So having tangible measurement is helpful. And there are now devices that measure heart rate variability. So that's essentially what that is the time in between each heartbeat that dictates to how well you're recovering and the amount of stress that you're experiencing. So, having some metrics, but also if you don't want to use technology, just checking in with, do you have space throughout your day to allow your mind and body to slow down? Like there should be rhythms throughout your day where you're very focused, there's intensity, you're getting things done. And then there should be periods of rest and relaxation and space where you can sort of let things settle in and calm down. And then it's like sprinting throughout your day. And most people just are doing this like sprint from morning all the way to night. There needs to be some pit stops along the way. So creating, intentional space within your schedule is extremely helpful. Creating intentional time to practice self-care, to slow down and actually chew your food. That's why mindfulness is one of the strategies that we use in our academy to help people sort of create the awareness around how much stress and tension they just currently are living with. Because a lot of times people don't even realize how much tension and stress they're carrying in their bodies, in their necks, their shoulders, their stomachs. And once they start to slow down and they start to tune in and tap into that body's innate wisdom and intelligence, they realize, oh my gosh, I was carrying around a lot of stress. I didn't realize that becomes their baseline. And also then sometimes it becomes an addiction. People have, addicted to adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol and these hormones that are useful when we're trying to run away from a tiger or, jump out of the way from like a bus that's, might come down the road. But having those hormones surge through your body all day long because you're not intentionally creating the time for that relaxation and that rest, that rhythm reset, that's what really does then create the disturbance at night.
Yeah, for sure. And, I was that person who had that baseline energy frequency of go, 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 do. I thought rest was, I wasn't being a good productive human if I was resting. I'd feel guilty and I didn't know how to. But it's funny because, like you say, we're so blind at times. And I know even a lot of my clients now as well, when we have ourselves in that space, we don't know, or we often associate with, because everything's so important. And if we drop something out, like we're so busy, it's like I don't have time to take a break because my schedule, my day between work, between kids, between whatever is full. Like there is nothing I can let go of. There is no space I can possibly create. But how do you help those people to actually see and notice that actually there is lots of space? And like you say, when you tap into that rhythm and body intelligence as well, you begin to look for even more space because you realize how beneficial it is.
I think people have to have that experience. And there has to be a certain level of willingness and openness to experimentation, because something doesn't become real until you experience it. And it's great, we hear like slow down to speed up, and there's a lot of people that talk about this, but until you really have the experience of that, and that actually, I had that experience in college. I was getting a degree, I was running a business, I was, just burning the candle at both ends. And I realized that it was just this little shift that doing nothing actually is doing something, and that it's so important to do nothing, or at least attempt to try to do
Yeah.
nothing. And it was amazing what a difference that made, not only in my mental health, but also in my physical health. Just slowing down a little bit. So trying it on, and really, I think a lot of times we get our priorities mixed up, and we create stories around what we think is true. And when we really look at those stories, oftentimes that's only really one side of the story. We're not telling ourselves the whole story. So really taking a minute to think, well, is it true? Do I really not have time, or am I creating this for myself? Are you the master of your life, or are you the victim of your life? Right. So understanding that, you're choosing everything in your experience to a certain degree, and you can also choose something different if you feel, that it's necessary. I think that's operating from a place of possibility and creation versus from a place of, life is happening to me and there's nothing I can do about it. And it's a program. I think we come into this world, we don't have the training that is necessary sometimes to really understand how our minds work and how our bodies work. And we just get stuck in the rhythm and the routine of what we think we need to do or should do. And that's really what creates a lot of disease and disharmony, and also gets in the way of people sleeping.
Yeah. For sure. And like so much of what you touched on there is so many different things that have been spoken about on the podcast with so many different people coming from different angles. But it is that truth again of it comes back to self-responsibility and, kind of being honest with yourself and allowing yourself to be in a different mode. And like you say, you're either the master of your life or you're the victim. And I think so often we feel like victims and we have no choice, but it's that willingness that you're talking about that makes the change in the first place. And I totally agree, everything, it has to be experienced for ourselves to really know the benefit. But again, that's the piece of the self-responsibility and the taking action and doing it consistently to actually feel the experience in the first place. So yeah, I just love everything that you mentioned there as well. And that's obviously a huge part of it, changing that mindset and creating lasting change. And you mentioned the mind-body technology at the start of the conversation. So how do you help people as well to kind of bring it in on a more psychological level and, making it something that becomes habitual and a new way of living per se, and not just something a person does every now and again?
Yeah, I think it's, getting the mind, we call it getting the mind out of the way of the body. So that's really like the first phase when we work with clients at Sleep Science Academies. We help them understand the ways in which their minds are getting in the way of their body. So what are the underlying patterns, the beliefs, the thoughts, the stories that are specifically around sleep, around what sleep's doing to you, your body, what will happen if you don't solve this, all of the fear, doubt, and worry thoughts, you can think of it, that keep the body then in a stress state. That all needs to be processed and that needs to be dealt with. and seen as not useful. And we use many, many different types of psychologies and techniques to help our clients sort of understand and process that information. One of which is, I mentioned prior to this, is mindfulness, is creating, understanding that you're not your thoughts, or just becoming aware of the thoughts and beliefs that you have, and asking that question: is this useful? Is this thought or belief, is this going to lead me more towards sleep, or is this going to keep my body in a stressed state? And so really identifying, well, what are the thoughts, the patterns? We often see a lot of perfectionism in the work that we do. A lot of highly intellectual, successful people usually have issues sleeping. And it's because they make it a problem, and it's not a problem. Sleep is not a problem to be solved. And if you treat it like that, then your body actually can get sort of, for lack of a better word, get stuck in this stress pattern of trying to perfect sleep or solve it. And sleep's not something that you can necessarily perfect or solve. It's something that just happens. And then people put it on a pedestal, and it deserves to be on a pedestal. So that it gets a little tricky there, because well, if I sleep, then everything in my life will be better. And yes, that's true, but putting it on a pedestal creates unnecessary pressure. And when we're helping people, shift their minds out of the way of their bodies, we need to decrease the amount of pressure, not increase the amount of pressure. And so, like I mentioned, first and foremost, it's creating the awareness. And there's many ways of doing that, from coaching to mindfulness practices, to several different exercises, self-inquiry, to really just start to create some awareness. And then you can start to put in practice some tangible habits, routines, rituals, techniques in your physical environment, to then help your body then just come back online. And that's really the second phase, is then dealing with repatterning, if you will, the physical body. And there's a lot of tools and techniques to help in that area.
Yeah, so true. And just when you mentioned, you're not your thoughts, and beginning that awareness practice of, is this useful? Is this serving me? Is this helping me move out of a stressed space when it comes to sleep? What will be some of those thoughts, just to give people, because again, when we're not aware or not conscious, we don't see them. They're like our blind spots. So what could be some potential thoughts that add that extra pressure and are not beneficial to having the best night's sleep?
Well, there's a lot of them. I've identified about 50. So, but that are, which is really interesting, because we take, when we work with clients, we take them through an exercise where we ask them these 50 questions, or they ask themselves, do you believe this to be true? Or is this, do you have this thought? And what's really fascinating, really interesting, after the hundreds of people we've worked with, is that those beliefs and thoughts, they're not their beliefs and thoughts, because like 90% of the time, people have the same beliefs and thoughts about their sleep. And at the very base sort of level here, it's people have a fear that that the sleep issue is going to continue for the rest of their life, and that they're not going to be able to solve it. And that they're going to either have to take medication, or they're just going to be tired all the time and look tired all the time and be grouchy, and all the things that come along with, not getting a good night's rest. But at the very base is, I'm going to have to deal with this the rest of my life. I'm broken. And then there's all these other thoughts that kind of stem from that, this is destroying my health, and I've tried everything. That's a very common thought that people, I'm like, really? You've tried everything? Huh? That's interesting. There's so many, but really, like I said, the base thought is this fear of, I'm going to have to, have this issue, or am I going to have this issue the rest of my life? There's a question there that's open-ended, which then keeps the body in a stressed state.
Yeah. Because again, I think at this stage, everyone knows kind of how important sleep is, and it is an important factor to help our bodies and rest and digest, and to have them in their optimal state as well. So yeah, it can, that thought, or, oh my God, another tick box of, I'm not doing it right. And and I was that person as well. I tried to be so regimented and do everything so perfectly that it became, and it was actually more stressful, because I was judging myself, I was criticizing myself, I was being so hard to myself, because I felt like, oh my God, I wasn't doing it right. So that's definitely not beneficial as well. And just because when it comes to, say, new parents or especially new mothers, how do you help them deal with sleep deprivation as well, which can be a
Yeah,
part with newborns?
this is such a great question. And the answer is not always so popular. It's actually accept that your sleep is going to be challenged.
Yeah.
And just accept it, because a lot of times I think what happens is people get in resistance to their experience. Like if you have a newborn baby, or in my example, I don't have kids, but I have a now 7-month-old puppy, and getting that 6-week-old puppy or 8-week-old puppy, I mean, we were getting up in the middle of the night, taking her to the outside. I mean,
Mhm.
sleep was not optimal, but I knew that going into it, hey, this is going to be a challenging time for my sleep, and that challenging time will eventually end. And so just accepting where you are, not to mean that doesn't mean that you can't necessarily do things to improve or change it, but just having that acceptance of this is part of this process of,
Mm.
having a baby that needs to be breastfed, getting up in the middle of the night. And the trick is we often speak and help clients that their sleep issues continue past the point. Their babies are now sleeping perfectly through the night, but they're not sleeping because and then they get stressed about not sleeping. And so this is where it becomes a problem. And if before you can get to that place of being stressed about not sleeping, just realize, hey, the body has an intelligence. It knows how to sleep. It will sleep, and not get anxious and all worked up that you're not going to be able to continue to sleep even after your baby sleeps, is a really good mindset for all mothers or mothers to be to have going into that challenging time. So it isn't the most popular sort of solution, but it definitely helps.
I think it's 1,000,000% on point, because that energy, I even talk about, like, the energy of acceptance is just like dropping in. You're just like, okay, this is it. And like you say, there is no resistance. You're not battling it. You don't have the thoughts which can exasperate how you're feeling internally. So it's just like, okay, this is what it is. This is how it is. This is how it's going to be at the moment. And it's taking it moment to moment as well. And we often project onto the future. Like you're saying, it's going to be like this forever. It's never going to improve. But that's part of all the work as well, and becoming present and being okay with any moment in how it is, and allowing it to evolve, and knowing that the next moment might be very different. But we kind of attach and we get stuck in these, well, like you mentioned, these stories and these beliefs and these patterns. So you've shared so much as well, but even just to share some of the more practical tips as well that people can do to help themselves, and especially in that moment where they lie down and next thing their head is going like, woo, 90, and they're thinking all through the day and every thought and every conversation. What are some practical things as well that people can do?
Yeah. Well, the goal would be to never. Well, I don't want to use the word never. To try your best to break that pattern. If that is a pattern that is often happening, then there's a lot of changes that you need to make during the day to mitigate that. But if, let's say, you get to the place where you're lying in bed, your mind's racing, you maybe start to feel your heart beat a little bit faster, or you know that it's going to be a challenge to sleep. You don't actually want to lay in bed, because you're associating with a hyper arousal or stress with your bed, which should be associated with sleep and sex and relaxation. And so you want to make sure that if you do start to have a racing mind, or you still start to have a stress responses, really just removing yourself from the bed and bedroom would be a better way, so that you're not anchoring bed and bedroom equals stress, because our bodies love habit. Our bodies love ritual routines, and that becomes a ritual and a routine for people, which is why most people have an issue sleeping. And so remove yourself from the bed and bedroom. If you already if you're having a stress response, remove yourself, go to a low lit room, do something relaxing, do some breathing, some journaling, a puzzle, knit, anything that doesn't involve technology, stretch. And then once things sort of settle down, and that sleepiness feeling comes back, then just go ahead and walk back into the bedroom, and close your eyes and allow your body to do what it knows how to do. But like I said, but ideally you don't get to that place. If that's a sign that there's some things that you're ignoring, and that you're not taking the time for yourself during the day. You're not allowing the contracted energy to expand throughout the day. So that's a sign that, okay, what you make that mean is, okay, there's some things I need to change. If that is consistently happening each night, there's some things in what you're doing, how you're thinking, the way that you're showing up, your environment, that need to change. Mm-hmm. And then it's up to you to either get the guidance to change it, or to experiment with different practices to then see what that does at the end of the night and the end of the day for your body and your mind.
Yeah, so true. And again, we have all these signs and clues and kind of little whispers and nudges from our life, if we pay attention, if we look at it, to make these changes. I look at them like an invitation to change something. And like you say, not just in that moment, you want to nip it in the bud. You want to go back when it comes to sleep, go back into your day and bring in different aspects in that. So do you have any particular rituals in the day that you like to do that really you find super beneficial?
I do. I mean, so in starting slow in the morning, and I know this might be difficult for certain people, but creating space and starting slow in the morning. So I have a mindfulness practice, 20-minute meditation practice, just to set my day up so that I can be more resilient and be more present. That's a staple in my routine. I try to get outside, get some sun on my skin, and occasionally I do cold exposure. So this is maybe a little bit extreme for people that are listening to this, maybe not. But like this morning, I got in 45-degree water for 4 minutes, and I just sat there and breathed. So just resetting my
cold.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I had so much resistance around getting in there this morning, but yeah, so doing some sort of like, the way that I look at your like morning routine is, you're bookending your day, and how you start your day and how you end your day are really important. And so starting your day creates the optimal environment. It's kind of like putting on your armor for the day with all the little things that are going to rise that you're going to be challenged with throughout the day. Mm-hmm. And you can deal with those things in a much more graceful, harmonious way so that they're not so stressful and impactful, and then create more disorder for your body to then have to recover or recoup from. So that's what I personally do. And then, throughout the day is creating space, like not having back-to-back meetings, creating, some downtime to, eat lunch and eat in a way that's not feeling rushed, where you're not working while you're eating. Like, the more you can just be present with what you're doing and practice that level of presence throughout your day, it really does over time yield an amazing nervous system response, and allows you to have that intelligence to know what you need. Body awareness, if you will, a body intelligence, I think sometimes, or people call it, but getting to know, just tuning in and listening to, like, well, what do I need right now? Do I need a break? Do I need water? Do I need, to scream in a pillow? Just getting in touch with what you need. And that changes throughout the day, depending on, what's being presented. But then responding to those needs is I think the first level is understanding the needs and getting in tune with the needs, and then responding to those needs is a whole nother level, and having the tools to respond. Then it just makes so much better of a day, because it's easier. But we're not trained. We don't, there's not a lot of schools that teach us, what I'm just describing here. So
yeah, for sure. That's why I talk about it as well. I'm like, it is the self-discovery journey, and it's that self-responsibility. It's getting maybe to, and unfortunately, sometimes we have to get to a point in our life where, whether it's illness or we're just burnt out or whatever it is, that we're like, I can't do this anymore. And then we may start exploring other avenues. But I'm a huge proponent as well for, like that, taking a few moments in the morning, because it just makes all the difference in the world. And even as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, if we can conquer ourselves in the morning, you can conquer anything in the day. And that conquer is actually connecting with ourselves, being present in our mind, in our body before interacting with our day and anyone else. Because if not, we're at the mercy. Well, I know for me, I was at the mercy of everything and pulled in all directions. And then I get to the end of the day and I was like, I didn't even get done what I wanted to do today or needed to do, So it's really, really powerful. Devin, what a super interesting conversation as well. And please, if there's anything else that you feel called to share, please do. And then you're the founder of the Sleep Science Academy as well. So maybe you'd like to talk about some of your work that you do there as well, which obviously ties in with the conversation today, and where people can find out more about your work.
Yeah. So essentially at Sleep Science Academy, we help high performers, exhausted insomniacs, all over the world, mostly in the United States, really understand and address the root cause of why they're not sleeping. And based off this conversation, I think people have a little bit of a better idea of maybe some of the patterns and the things that are keeping them from sleep. And really, it's really about understanding that there is a system, there are tools, techniques, and support, and a process that can help you discover some of the things that right now maybe you're not aware of, or you're ignoring, or you just never had the proper support to really uncover and process. So many people just try to treat the symptoms of disease. And they, in my field and what we do with Sleep Science Academy, that would be like a sleeping medication or a sleep supplement or getting, I don't know, even like a massage. It's like, okay, those are all, there's a time and a place for all those things, and they can be helpful and useful. But really, if you don't address the underlying patterns and really understand where the dis-ease or disorder is coming from, then it's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And that's what really we hope to give people and do give people is the tools to address the root cause of why they're not able to sleep, and then give them a clear path to being able to, fall asleep naturally without the need of anything, mm-hmm. and stay asleep so that you can wake up and make the 2/3 of your life amazing. Yeah. We spend 1/3 of our life in bed, and we can make that 1/3 make the other 2/3 extraordinary.
Yeah. Amazing. And, it's that reminder again to not just look at the symptoms. And I think we're all guilty sometimes. And even the way our world is set up in society, it's just like, oh, quick fix, just fix the symptom. But that's never long lasting and never the answer. So thank you so much, Devin, for joining. And please share your website as well, where people can find out more. But as always, I will have all direct links as well from the show notes on my website.
Yeah, so for those of you that are struggling with their sleep, sleepscienceacademy.com is the resource. And then Devin Burke Wellness on all social platforms, LinkedIn and Instagram and all that. I'm not a big social media person, but I do like it. It is a nice tool to reach people and share information. So
amazing. Well, thank you so much. And I will share all of those as well on the show notes. And thanks for joining today. And I feel like the conversation went so quick, and there's so many different more avenues and things we could have touched on, but perhaps another time. Thank you so much, Devin.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation as well. Thank you.